My fellow ghostwriters, what's going on? How you doing? As always, I'm really wanting us to be as equally successful as creatives as we are as business people. And so the way that we do that is to give our clients the highest level of professionalism. Recently, I did a post on LinkedIn, I think it was last week, and I was talking about the importance of making voice guides for every single client that you work with. And the post got some pretty good interest. So I said, you know what, this will be a good video topic. So I decided to talk about it in this week's video. If this seems of interest to you and you're a fellow writer, or you just have an interest in words in the career of writing, then definitely like this video, subscribe to this channel, and then also if you got some value, share it with someone who you think it can help. And then we'll get started. After you do those things, we'll go ahead and get started with the video. I'll give you a second to do that. All right, thank you so much for doing that. So the importance of creating written content, whether it's for yourself or someone else, is growing nowadays. Like, it was already major. Content is going to be king though, moving forward to 26, 27 and beyond. So you want to ensure that you have a consistent and professional approach to the way that you create content. And there's no better way to do that other than the voice guide. So a voice guide is a document that you create. It is just for you, or if you have someone else working on the project, but it's a guide that encompasses everything that is of the voice of the person that you're writing for. Voice guide ensures that you have clarity and consistency. And those are two big things that, we need to make sure that we have as writers. So I'm going to just jump right into it and talk about why a voice guide matters. There is a lot of competition for writers right now, even though people say that AI is coming and it's going to be taking our jobs, which I don't really agree with, because AI is a tool. It's not as intuitive as we are, not right now. But when it comes to the competition, the way that you stand apart is your professionalism and your attention to detail. And nothing screams that more than the voice guide. The voice guide also prevents you from throwing something in there that doesn't really sound like your client, because there's nothing that will alienate a client's audience or their readers when you try to do something new that's kind of out of character, so to speak, for the person that you're writing for. So again, it prevents you from being inconsistent and not really making good content that is in line with the content that you've made before. And again, it elevates your professionalism. It makes your client feel that you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing, because you took the extra how many ever minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, to make a comprehensive voice guide for them. So next, I want to talk about the key components of a voice guide. You can definitely have the descriptors of their voice, the tone in context with whatever it is they're writing or you're writing on their behalf, their language and style preferences, and then of course their formatting. And this is just the formatting of how each post will be written or whatever it is that you're writing, but I'll get into each one right now. So when it comes to the essence of the voice, you want to have some adjectives or use some adjectives to describe the way in which they sound. Are they hilarious? Are they very serious and extremely professional? All of that you want to place at the top of your brand voice guide. And you can either do this in a Google Doc, or you can use Microsoft Words, or you can put it in your Remarkable. We talked about it last video. Check it out if you didn't see it. But you just want to write that down. And so that way you know what they're trying to convey based on what you've heard. And I'll tell you how you can get their sample by interviewing them, but we'll talk more in depth about it. So next, you want to know their tone and context. So when they're on LinkedIn, are they that thought leader? Is it very authoritative? And when they're on, let's say, TikTok, it's more personable because, you're writing a video script for them, or you're outlining some talking points for them to talk about in the video. Is it more personable? You just want to know for every single piece of content that you help them produce, what is that tone going to be like? Next, language, style, and preferences. This is important because sometimes you'll have clients who do not want you to use some words on their behalf at all. And so definitely these will go into the voice guide. So I used to work with a client who didn't like profanity. I mean, not even hell, nothing. They just stayed away from it all. That should go into the voice guide. That's a major preference. And then you have the opposite of the spectrum. Some clients love profanity. They're like, that's really me. It's funny. Whenever Gary V, the speaker, Gary Vaynerchuk, but he goes by Gary V, And he's a businessman, of course. He's not just a speaker. He's many things, but he's very colorful in his language. And people always ask him, why are you cursing? He's like, this is who I am. So for him, the profanity wouldn't be a big deal, but for your client, it might be. So put that in there. I had another client who, when describing her race, she wanted that letter, the first letter of the word, to be capitalized. That goes into her brand guide, her voice guide, excuse me. I keep thinking brand because it really does go with branding, but this is really just for their voice guide. Also, when they are on LinkedIn, how do they address their audience? Like when I create certain content about, well, for authors, future authors, I say legacy builders. If I'm speaking to my fellow writers, I call them that. I say, hey, what's going on, my fellow writers? So you want to add that to their voice guide. Do they like to use certain jargon? Do they have a made up word that they use? How do they close their post? How do they open their post? Like I said, with the greeting to their audience, or maybe they don't do that at all. But all of that needs to be included in the voice guide. So once again, it is consistent. And sometimes I even have different openings based on the day. So you would also put that within your voice guide. If you're doing posting for them on LinkedIn, Monday, this is always said. Friday, this is always said. When it's Wednesday, and you're trying to help your audience get through the week, how do you address them? All of that can go into this guide. It also kind of goes into the formatting and structuring too, because I want to touch base on that. Let's move away from the social media. If you are doing blog posts for them, what do the headers look like? Is it consistently always, H1 header with the title, and then maybe a subhead or no subhead, and then just go straight to the byline, their name or whatever it is? You want to make sure that you have that consistent as well. So now let's go into the favorite part, how to create one for your client. So I'm all about interviewing clients. And I whenever I have a one-on-one with a fellow ghostwriter, I always tell them, I ask them the craziest questions, because if you ask a client, now within reason, let me be clear. If you ask a client, tell me about your 15th birthday, they'll be like, what? 15? I haven't thought about that in years, but I remember that birthday because I really, for some reason, I was really into horses at the time. So I really wanted a pony for my birthday. And so my parents gave me a figurine or the grown-up version of My Little Ponies. I can't remember what those ponies were called. I used to have one. But they get excited. And so you get to hear that excitement, and you get to see the words that they use when they're communicating that, because trust me, that will be helpful for you when you're doing some other type of content for them. So I ask the most random things, but in that interview, you get to notice their natural speech pattern. Like I notice I speak fast, period. But if, I'm more contemplative, then definitely I find that I take my time to ensure that I use the right words. So do the same thing with your client. Ask them something that, is a surprise to them, and then ask them a standard question and see the difference between both of their responses and include that in the voice guide. Step 2, look at the content that they already have up. You always want to audit someone's content when you're beginning to work with them, because you'll see what worked for them and what maybe, could have been better. And you can incorporate it into the voice guide and just say, with their long form content, it just seemed to trail off, as it went on. So let's go ahead and build it with a tight 3-part structure. Anytime you look at something, I say forewarned is foretold, you could see kind of what their areas of opportunity were and then why they needed you. So definitely look at what they already have up there. Make sure that you understand your clients in step 3, your client's core principles for the company, for themselves or their brand, or whatever it is that you're writing, where their writer's voice will be used for. Make sure that those core beliefs are present. Like I've never shared my really core beliefs, but I can go into them now for Right Way Consulting, is innovation, integrity, and honesty. And you'll kind of notice, like within my content that I create, all those are prevalent because it's something that's important to me. So find out what that is for your client and make sure that that is also notated in their voice guide. Next, you want to start getting use cases Notice what their content was doing before your interaction and after. This is very important. So if they started off with, how many reviews or impressions on LinkedIn, and then after working with you for a month, it's doubled, and then after that, it'll triple. That's important. So you want to keep those metrics in the voice guide as well. So that way you both can look back on what progress has been made and where you all are going to go. And then lastly, make sure you really do make this a physical document that you keep for yourself, or you share it with teams if applicable. But go ahead, don't be lazy, y'all. Go ahead and make the document. It just really just makes that much of a difference. Like, truly. But just don't just say, oh, I'll remember this, because you won't. There's so many different things when you're working with a client. You need to make sure that you notate and write them down. Let me tell you how this is also going to benefit your client. When you use a voice guide and you give them drafts of deliverables, they might say like, oh, this really sounds like me, which is the highest compliment you can get. And they'll be impressed with you, and you will be retained for that monthly rate, because that's what we want, right? But it really does show that you took time to notice the small things that they say and how they say it with such expression. And it's just saving time for both of you, because they don't have to do that many revisions. Because I love when I get something back, and I do want revisions because I want it to be as perfect as it can be, or as good as it can be. But when you get less revisions, you feel good. You really do. So if you've aligned yourself well with their voice, then you will achieve that. It also shows them where the brand could potentially go. There's nothing more thrilling for when a client sees their ideology paired with your writing ability, and they begin to think, well, wow, if you did my LinkedIn post this good, what if we started doing SEO blogs on LinkedIn? Then I could put those blogs also and repurpose them on my website. And then I could maybe start doing a book of essays, and then maybe I can do a full length book, and it just goes on and on and on. The voice guide will allow them to see the possibilities, and it will excite them, and they will see the trajectory of where you two could go. And lastly, on the heels of that, it builds confidence in their messaging. And so once they see that you have grasped their tone in context, they will begin to trust and definitely see that you are putting in that work, and they look forward to seeing the future in their messaging. Recap, a voice guide is something that will definitely set you apart from the other ghostwriters who are out there working and doing copy and paste templates. And you know me, I'm not against AI. I'm not against that. But if you take time first to do the groundwork yourself, and then align it with whatever content that you choose, AI assisted content you choose to do, if you don't use AI at all, this is something that's going to add more cohesion and professionalism to your craft. And I'm always on here talking about being as professional as we are creative. So if you're not doing a voice guide, go ahead and get on that now. And I hope that this adds value to someone in their practice in their craft. And if you would be so kind to let me know in the comments, that would really make me feel good. All right. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next upload.